What's up, everybody? It is Ori. Welcome to another live stream. We're going to talk some wrestling. We had some very interesting wrestling happenings this week. We're going to play some Final Fantasy XIV. I am trying to finish up the last of A Realm Reborn and all of the patches so that I can get into Heavensward, I believe is the next one. I apologize. I knew until I thought about it like right now. Let's see. Let me look at my list of quests here. Close that. A Realm Awoken, I believe, is the next one that I'm looking at. But anyway, I wanted to talk about some of the wrestling things that are going on right now. Jimmy Corderas put out a tweet that I'm just now seeing. If you don't know who Jimmy Corderas is, he is a former WWE referee, was there for a very long time, and not to say that Jimmy Corderas isn't good and he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he's got a super hot take that I don't care for, if I'm being perfectly honest. I love all kinds of wrestling. I like classic wrestling. I like newer wrestling. I like deathmatch wrestling, which I get. I'm a girl. It's weird. I don't know. But if you watch AEW Dynamite, you will know that our main event this week was the second labor of Jericho. It was Chris Jericho against Mr. MDK himself, Nick Gage. It was a hardcore, it was pretty much the closest thing you're going to get to a traditional or MDK style hardcore match in AEW on public television, honestly. I liked it. It was really good, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, it wasn't so hardcore that I felt like I should be shielding some children's eyes, but it was good, and I really liked it. But Jimmy Corderas had this to say. I'm going to play it over, and I'll probably have to turn the background audio because that's how it's going to come through. So I'm going to turn that down just a little bit so that you can hear it. The clip is about a minute long, so I'm going to play it for you, and then we'll talk about some reactions real quick.
To say and so little time to say it. Hello everyone, former pro wrestling referee Jimmy Corderas with your ref and rant for today. And I needed an extra day to process this, coming off of Wednesday night's Dynamite, which I thought was a fun show up until the last match, the main event, that death match style, which, full disclosure, as many of you know, I'm not a big fan of. It's not my cup of tea. But first of all, big ups to Chris Jericho for getting through that. I know it wasn't easy, but man, he rocked it. And at the same time, you know, trying to compare this new generation of deathmatch style with the Terry Funks and the Mick Foleys and the ECW era, let me put it to you this way. They didn't do it just for the gratuitous violence. They did it for a reason. They got people invested. And when you talk about ECW, even though I wasn't part of that company, I knew it. I felt it. It was different. It was more than Singapore canes and chairs and putting people through tables. It was an attitude. Now, that was an attitude era. But this, what we're getting right now, is garbage. And you know where this belongs right now?
Okay, so this, he's referring to a pizza cutter that he picked up and he threw it in a trash can next to him. This is my response to it. I get it. It's not for everybody. And there are those of us who do to some extent like the gratuitous violence. Like, I'm just going to put it out there. There are those, you know, and not discrediting those people at all. But there are stories to be told within deathmatch wrestling. There are people who are invested. Metal, what's up, buddy? We are discussing Jimmy Corderas and his hot take on Wednesday night's main event on Dynamite. There are those, but I will say there are those who are in it for the gratuitous violence, but there are those of us who are invested for the storyline of it, not just to see people get hurt. Realistically, like, blood is one thing, but we don't want anybody to get hurt. And the other half of the argument that I have for it is most of us fans know about his podcast, Talk is Jericho. Most of us fans also know about the Vice series, Dark Side of the Ring. Dark Side of the Ring was covered or covered Nick Gage this season. Chris Jericho does the narration for Dark Side of the Ring. So he had some knowledge of Nick Gage going into this match before this was ever even... Sorry, my dogs are scratching on the door. Before this was ever even announced, okay? He knows who Nick Gage is. He knows what deathmatch wrestling is. If you follow, even if you don't watch Dark Side of the Ring and you follow Talk is Jericho, he did a whole episode on Dark Side of the Ring and on deathmatch wrestling. Chris Jericho agreed to this. He went in, they planned this out. They knew exactly how it would go down and what would happen. Yes, accidents can happen and things can go wrong and go bad. Look at the FTR and Proud and Powerful match this week. That wasn't how that was supposed to go. Cash Wheeler sliced his arm open. And that was just on a ring post. So things happen, but to say that all of it is garbage, what these people do in these death matches, they are homages to ECW, to Onita and Terry Funk and Mick Foley, and to throw all of that out that they built on just because you don't prefer it, I think does a disservice to those wrestlers who work so hard at their craft. If you don't like it, you know it's coming on, turn it off. It's that simple. You may not be wrong, Metal. Metal is saying that Jimmy Corderas is going the Jim Cornette route to stay relevant. That may be possible. You know, because Jimmy is an old school attitude era. And just for clarification, if you don't know who I am, have never followed me or listened to any of my podcasts, I do an Attitude Era review podcast on Chairshot Radio Network. Chairshot. Shameless plug, I know. But it's called A Change in Attitude. It comes out every Monday night. We are covering every Raw, every pay-per-view from 1996 King of the Ring on. We're about 10, 12 episodes in, give or take. And it's going really well. I never watched the Attitude Era in its, on its first run. What I've seen is bits and clips. Everything is out of context. So I'm learning about all this, secondhand, but I'm enjoying it. I'm appreciating it just as much as the wrestling that I watched in early 2000 when I first got in. So that's my take on it. You don't have to like it, but appreciate the hard work that both of these men went out and did. And on top of that, appreciate that Chris Jericho knew what he was getting into. Don't sit there. I've had one person in particular on Twitter sit there and say that Chris Jericho downgraded himself. He went against Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock for the Undisputed Championship, and now he's doing this. This is a one-off situation. This is not going to be, Chris Jericho's going to go off and be king of the death matches. That's not what's happening here. This is a one-off situation. It's a style that Chris has never done before, and I'm sure it's something that he was like, you know what? Just once. Just once. Let's go full hardcore. Let's see what happens. Like current hardcore deathmatch. Let's see what happens. And this was, people are griping about it, but this is the tip of the iceberg for what it could be. If you really, really want to know about it, get on Vice, whether it's on YouTube or on demand or what have you, find season 3 of Dark Side of the Ring and go watch the episode on Nick Gage. Go do it. But I will warn you, if you're squeamish, you may want to look away, because the very opening segment is pretty graphic. They did blur quite a bit out, but you're going to see some